Hello and welcome to Science Behind the Scare. I'm Nick, your personal scare technician. Today we're talking with Spencer Terry of Fear Factory, Salt Lake City, Utah. And he was the first in the world to open his haunted attraction during COVID-19. What is it like to open a haunted attraction during a pandemic? Let's find out together on Science Behind the Scare.
Everybody, let's dive right in. We're gonna let all the haunting begin. Grab a seat, grab a friend. Best stick around until the end of it. Let's go. Start the show, get your bill. But if you ain't lucky, you might get killed already. Let's go. Working hard, put through blood, sweat, and tears. Haunt the family, delivering beer. What the customer least expects. Drop window statues and special effects. Watch a show if you dare. Learn the science. Behind the scare. We've got ghouls and goblins and haunters alike, reaching out from everywhere around town. Maybe you'll be next.
Hello and welcome to Science Behind the Scare. I'm talking with Spencer Terry. Hey, how you doing today?
I'm good, Nick. How are you?
I'm excellent.
Awesome.
Great to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
All right. Quick dive into you before we get started. Let everyone know who you are and what you do.
Yeah. My name is Spencer Terry. I'm the general manager, the GM at Fear Factory Haunted House in Salt Lake City, Utah. We're a haunted attraction, 6 buildings, 2 underground passages, 16. You're gonna hike 16 flights of stairs when you're at our attraction. It is a massive place, but a pretty fun one. So we have, as the intro suggests, we're the first to open in the world during this crazy Corona pandemic. Lots of learning moments that we're going to talk about and share, and definitely some new insights as well. So, yeah, that's me.
Cool. So you have a fairly extensive background in the haunting industry. Why don't you give us a little bit of the genesis of how it all started?
Yeah, it all starts years ago when I was a wee little lad. I was 7 years old, and 7 or 8 years old, depending on who you ask in my family. But I just got sick of trick or treating. Like, it just wasn't my gig, and I wanted to hide in the bushes and scare people instead. And my dad saw that as an opportunity and built me a coffin and had a little wolf mask. And I, of course, laid in there pretending like I was dead and jumped up and scared people. And it was downhill from there. So here we are now. I opened my own haunted house as part of a nonprofit in Malvern, Iowa. That was a really big success there. And then later moved back here to my home here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and joined the Fear Factory team, and have been there since 2015 and rocking and rolling. So it's been a really great learning moment, and certainly haunting is a small part of my professional life, but it's one that I really love and am passionate about.
Heck yeah. Been doing it quite a while. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into COVID-19. And so you wrestled with the decision for quite a while. Should we open? Shouldn't we open? The pros and cons. What was that going through in your head? How was that?
Um, we did. Yeah, we went back and forth, goodness, for weeks. I mean, this is something that none of us in the world knew what was going on, and we didn't know how bad it was going to get and how bad it could still potentially get. And we really did. We obviously want to make sure that our team is safe. That's our ultimate priority. We, at any given season, we'll have about 300 staff on, and so it was a concern. It really was. How do we open and do it safely? And of course, our customers as well. You can't sell a ticket to an event or to an attraction that people don't feel safe about. They're just not going to come. And so we had to do a lot of marketing. I'm sure we'll talk about later about how to market the event and make sure things are good, and making sure that we could set up not just the science of the scare on the back end, but also the science to the operational scare on the front end as well. So lots of work. Our owners are awesome. We've got 5 owners that they're really passionate about this industry. One of them's been haunting. He owned one of the biggest haunts here in Utah. Back in the days, in 1969 is when he started opening. Like, the guy's been around for a long time. It's Bob Dunfield, and so him and our owners, we went back and forth. Do we open? Do we not open? What can we control? What can we not? And at the end of the day, we built a plan that we knew was strong and sturdy, and we brought in a couple of folks to help us make sure that was going to be the case. And it's pretty awesome, now looking back. I mean, at the time it was really scary of we're opening and, the health department may or may not be on property, but how do we make sure that we can do this? And, that first week or two, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of waiting and just seeing, like, is the health department going to call us and say, hey, there was this massive outbreak at Fear Factory, and shame on you, Fear Factory, and we're going to close the place down. The reality is the opposite happened. We opened, we had thousands of people on the property over the course of our opening night. 0 contagion, 0 pathogen transfer, 0 concerns, nothing from the health department, no concerns there. And across the board, we're now really proud that we were able to do this with 0 instances by following a very strict and regimented plan, but it worked. And if we can do that, then we wanted to share that with everyone else so that they can do the same thing, and we can save Halloween and keep this beautiful holiday alive. So. Okay.
So when you opened, you were planning on opening 2 days. We'll get into that in just a moment. But the process of rules and regulations and what can be open and can't be opened were constantly changing still.
Yeah.
How did you kind of coordinate what you were hearing from the health department, from your county, from your state, and from federal? How did you kind of roll all that into one and find out what you needed to do? And then once you found that out, how worried were you about the changing all of a sudden?
Yeah, very, very worried. It's a great question. The reality is that, I can think of a time when we had our owners meeting and we were all doing it by Zoom. And we're literally talking about how are we requiring customers to wear masks? I mean, this is back in April, because our county had just released an order that they were requiring, not requiring, but the word must was used, that anyone in the community, you must wear a face guard or a face covering. And as we were talking and trying to plan out our scenario, I'm chatting with the health department folks that we have contact with about, is this a must, is this a require, or is this a strongly suggest? And this is part of it. And by the end of that 2-hour meeting, I had a message back in my inbox that said, just kidding, this is actually going to be a strongly required or strongly suggested rather than a required. So yeah, literally things were changing by the hour for those first couple of weeks. And it was a big concern. Like, at some point, how do you play a chess game when the rules keep changing after every move, right? Like, at some point you're like, I'm out, I can't do this anymore. And we were that's when we realized we needed to have someone on the inside who could really help us out. And so we hired a third-party health professional who, it's a local company, a safety company here called ResPro, and they were phenomenal to be able to take the plan that I had originally designed. We shot a bunch of holes through it just to kind of make sure and see what was going to, what made it through, what didn't, what penetrated, so that we could patch those up and be ready to rock and roll for our opening. So, yeah, it was an ongoing concern, and quite frankly, it still is a concern. And even now, quite frankly, if you would have asked me a month or two ago, I really would have thought that we would be in, we have these 4 levels like most people do. You've got red, orange, yellow, and green. I really thought we'd be in yellow by now. The rest of the state, most of the state is in yellow. We're still in orange, and we're not too far away from red. And so we opened on May 29th. We opened and took into consideration opening as red. We actually ran the operation as if we were in red to really make sure we were planned and we were ready to go for anything. So, yeah, it's a lot of work, a lot of uphill battle for sure.
And the one thing you couldn't plan on, unfortunately, was the unrest that was going on. You planned on being open the 29th and the 30th. Unfortunately, you didn't get to open the 30th.
Yeah, correct. We were ready to go full speed ahead, and things have been brewing that morning here downtown Salt Lake City. It's someone once said these are related to the riots that are happening with Black Lives Matter and with police brutality, and I saw someone that posted, well, when Salt Lake City flips a police car upside down and burns it, shit just got real. And I think for a lot of us it was unfortunate, not gonna lie, and I won't speak to the construct of the reasons why or how or what, but we felt it was in the best interest for customers and our staff to be safe and to let the protesters have their space. And so we're debating, and literally hour by hour, minute by minute, we were trying to figure out if we were going to open or not. And at 6 p.m. that night, after all this work and months of planning, our Salt Lake City mayor came out and requested and said, I want all businesses to close at 8 p.m., which of course just happens to be when we were going to open. And we said, you know what, done. We had one day, we were able to do it, and we were able to really kind of test and see how do we do this in a market that's going to be hard. And the silver lining for us is we were able to do that. Our staff was able to learn from each other. And at the end of the day, we had great learning, and we had everyone safe. So be it. So, yeah, you got to roll with the punches. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. So there's a million different factors to this that I want to talk about. But if someone does want to go see the plan, you guys on your website, you put up a plan where people can go and check it out. Now, of course, this plan was for you guys in Salt Lake City, and every county and state may have different restrictions in place.
Absolutely.
But tell us a little bit about the plan you have up on your site.
Yeah, so people can go to our website. It's fearfactoryslc.com. I'm sure you'll probably put up a link, Nick. It's somewhere, right? It's somewhere.
It's right there.
Go to fearfactoryslc.com. Under our FAQ or under Contact Us, there's a contingency plan mentioned there. You can fill it out, and then there's a quick form just because we want to know who's using it. And then you'll have it. It's a 60-page PDF. It's got everything you'll ever need to know about how we planned, executed, how we developed, who we worked with, all of the above. And at the end of the day, it was something that we knew that as the first haunted house in the world, there was just no way that anyone was going to let us open up. There just wasn't. And so the goal was how do we prove that we can not only open, we can be safe, we can be proactive, and people can still have a good time and help support and develop the economy. And we were able to do all of that. And so, that's the beauty of it. We had trolls online. They were like, I can't believe you guys, your money hoarding page. I can't believe you guys would even open up. And, my response was always, well, go read the plan first and then let's talk. Because if the health department, doesn't have any concerns, and, we sent it to our state level, to the county and to the city, and we had everyone in the room who needed to be in the room and then some. And our plan was Our plan, we hired extra staff for cleaning. We hired extra staff for making sure there weren't going to be any conga lines inside. We decreased our actor level to make sure that there was social distancing between the actors. We reduced occupancy load for almost 50%. So there was a lot of different things that we were doing to really try and mitigate concern and make sure that things were as safe as possible. And in doing so, I'm happy with the result, and I'm looking forward to being able to do it again in the fall. Our team's amazing. We have an incredible team that did a lot of hard work from our operational side to our makeup and planning side to our construction and tech and our staff trainings, and everyone worked around the clock for pretty much a month and a half straight just to help pull this off, and I'm really proud of the end result. So
Excellent. All right, so let's start with the actor side of things. Now, as an actor showed up, what were the requirements as soon as they got on property?
yeah, let's talk about the science part. So there was a lot of moving logistics. So typically, like I said, we'll have at any given time throughout our season, we'll have about 300 people on standby and ready to rock. And usually operating per night, we're at about 150, 170 people on deck. And so a lot of times, you can imagine that actors would typically show up at call time. They would get in a line. They'd hang out, give hugs, eat food, be ready, right? Like the stuff that we all know.
Yeah.
And then they would go upstairs. They would get their makeup done in this room with 17 makeup artists and just, airbrush, just air paint in the air. And it was awesome, right? It all changed, all of it. And I think, if there's one thing that I consistently am hearing from folks in the industry is, well, I just want things to be the way they used to be. And my response to them is, you got to be flexible. You just have to. We have, Rob, one of our owners, who owns a gym, and he always says, the strength in a tree is its ability to be flexible in the wind. And I think that was very, very true this year of us being able to say, how do we be flexible, and how does, as an industry, how do we be flexible? So, we decreased the actors that were coming on property. We actually had them coming in phases. So, we'd have 40 or 50 people at a time that were coming in to get ready to go up in makeup, and that was all based off of working with our awesome makeup managers, Chelsea and Becky, to be able to how many makeup artists. We used to have 17 makeup artists in our makeup room. We now have 6 because they also have to physically distance. So that, of course, drastically cut down the time to prepare, costume, prep, ready to rock and roll on makeup side. So all, when we changed one thing, that impacted something else, which impacted something else, 3 stages down the line. And so that was the hardest part of just kind of really putting all these metrics together and kind of creating this picture that was going to logistically work. So, and the same thing, rehearsals were pretty hard to do because, at that point it was less than, I think, 5 or 10 people in a space together, which makes, of course, makes trainings pretty hard. Oh, yeah. So we worked really well. We worked on a really cool plan with one of our supervisors who's in charge of training. His name's Skix. And Skix pretty much, we were all quarantined at that point, and so Skix every week was busting out these really cool videos and kind of some really cool scare tactics, and all, of course, by Zoom or by video conference, which was really cool. And he added some fun homework things, and so it was kind of cool to see other people scaring other people in their homes and just kind of creating different target scares and different deployment of how to utilize different things. So that was really cool. And I think, was it different? Absolutely. We also did a lot of work communicating what those changes would be with our staff so that, it wasn't, let's just come back on property and I'm still going to give everybody a hug and spread the corona, right? Like that any way possible. So communicating expectations with the staff was important, and they did a great job. They really did a great job. I'm super proud that, everyone, it sucks. We all haven't been together since the end of November, right? And here we are in the middle of May, and this is our halfway to Halloween event. You don't get to say hi and high five and give hugs and be like, what's up? And just see familiar faces. So it was hard, but I think successfully, being able to pull it off really made everybody proud. So props to our team. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. Amazing that you were able to pull it off. So I do have a question. You mentioned costumes. Now, did you have a set costume for each actor, and that was their costume and their mask? Or was there a process of disinfecting them at the end of the night to make sure that they were good to go for the next actor?
Yeah. Great question. In general, everyone has their own costume, and no one is allowed to change, to switch costumes, especially now. That's something that we just kind of always had in place the last few years, and really making sure that costumes are cleaned, that they're sanitized, if that means weekly. Sometimes that means daily. Making sure that we want our team to it's hard to be a monster when you smell like a monster, right? Like, you got to still be clean. Hygiene's important, even as monsters with fangs and blood all over our faces. So yeah. And so being able to do that was a little bit tricky. We did a lot of research. We actually bought a fogger from a company down in Texas called what was it? SFX. I don't remember it. I'll have to find out. Okay. But it's like disinfects. That's it. So it's FX at the end of it, but it's disinfects. And essentially, it's a fogger that is it's an antimicrobial fiber fogger that gets into the fibers of the fabric of the costumes, breaks down any viruses or any potential pathogen. Takes a couple hours, but it works out really well. So we, at the end of the night, we would fog down our machines, we'd spray them down, and then fog the entire thing, and then fog the room they were in, and that worked tremendously. No concerns the next morning. Bummer that we couldn't open that next day, but we were ready to rock and roll if that was the case. So, and I think same thing on the costume end of, I was just on a call just a couple hours ago about looking at just ways to think outside the box. So that might mean that there's, there might be something that you can put over a costume that may be clear, and at least you can take that off and discard it at the end of the night. It may even just mean, working with different spaces. I think a lot of times, I'm sure we'll talk about the science of scaring and being scaring it within a 6-foot bubble is optimal. Right now, it's not an option. And so thinking outside of that 6-foot box as well, lots of logistics.
Yeah. So diving into the customer outlook, well, first off, before we get into what it was like at the haunt, how was your media response? I'm sure you were probably worried at the beginning, will people even show up? But you actually had a really great response on media, and of course it ended up well. Tell us about the media response that you got that led you guys to make the decision to open up.
Yeah, the media is tricky, as we all know, and I think a lot of times the media will try and get content, and at the end of the day, they're going to spin it their direction. And so the goal for us was, how do we make sure that we're giving them what we want them to have, and that's it. And that's always important. I mean, back in the day when I ran my, a small little nonprofit haunted house, I was begging for the media to show up, right? And I was like, just please come for one night. And now when the media calls and says, hey, can we do an interview? I'm like, what for? What are your questions going to be? And I try and leverage that and make sure it's going to be beneficial for us, as all haunted houses should. At the end of the day, Heidi Dunfield, one of our co-owners who heads up a lot of our marketing, she had a really good strategy working with our PR team and our PR guy on we did a whole bunch of social media outreach ahead of time, but as far as like our mass market, we didn't actually open everything up until about a week out. And we did that strategically to make sure that we could create and consistently tell the story and navigate the safety waters first, and then we would have the media talking about the opening. And so that was key. There was a couple, you can go to our Fear Factory SLC page on Facebook and, check out the videos that I did ahead of time and kind of walk customers through what to expect, how things were going to look different, the different stations. We offered gloves, we offered hand sanitizer, all those new things, just to kind of make sure that the customer experience was still a good experience, but that it was different.
Yeah.
And so we worked on that, and our front of house director, Stephanie, is just killer at juggling logistics, and it certainly was different because 100% of our front of house team was doing something different. They were cleaning, and there was cleaning involved. Typically you would take someone's phone from them and scan it, right? And you'd give it back to them, and you can't do that anymore. So there's all those, like every small little thing we had to think about. And so in doing that, it allowed us to just be extra strategic about how are we careful and planning, but also communicating that to our customers. And as we talked about earlier, same thing, we had to communicate that internally to our team as well, and make sure that our team knew what was happening. So overall, I felt like the support was really great. I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised at our sales. And most people, if you haven't heard, we sold out both nights ahead of time, days ahead. And in the middle of a pandemic, that's the I think that's the canary in the coal mine, that there's a pandemic that's happening, yes, but people also haven't gone on vacation. They haven't been able to go on vacation. All the money that they're saving right now eating out at restaurants is back in their pocket. All these small entertainment things, concerts that people usually would have been going to, that money's back in their pocket. So as the entertainment industry has been really, really, really restricted over the last couple of months, as it's beginning to open those funnels back up economically, I think that people are going to spend money, and they're going to spend it big time. And that means that, for those of you that, are planning on opening, I hope you do, and I hope you just kill it, because we're seeing it. We're seeing the numbers locally here in our market in Salt Lake City, Utah. We're seeing it nationally. I also sit on the Haunted Attraction Association Board of Directors, and to be able to hear what other haunted houses are doing and how they're leveraging this, all the numbers are pointing to people coming out in droves, and I expect that we will sell out majority, if not all, of our nights this year. Granted, we're still going to be operating at 50% capacity, but the idea is that we'll be able to sell out every single night, and that's going to allow us to help kind of control the number of people on our property.
So was there a big social media outpouring from the public saying, yes, I want this?
Yes.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Across the board, we had, if I had to put a percentage to it, trolls versus fans, I'd say probably 98% were fans. And the trolls who, I got it, props, everyone deserves their own opinion. The goal is if we can do it safely and we can open up, that's the number one priority. Money has never been the priority. We have to create a safe space first. It's the reason why, the Haunted Attraction Association has a certified haunt operator and safety plan and a training, is because I think a lot of times people come to us as venues because they're giving us money in exchange for trust, right? Like, I'm giving you money, I'm going to get scared, and I'm going to get scared in a safe environment. And so that puts it back on us as venues, as attraction owners and operators, to say, like, safety always has to be first and foremost. If there isn't safety, people aren't giving you their money, period, end of story. So, and that's certainly, it's true. We're hearing that. We even, as we polled people after our event, the same data that people said, I appreciated hearing about the safety first. That made me feel comfortable enough to then purchase the ticket. So, communication, always important.
Absolutely. All right. Now, from the guest standpoint, I'm not super familiar with Fear Factory in Salt Lake City. I don't know how much property you guys have there, but how easy was it to space out the guests while they were in line?
Yeah, it's tricky. You can pull up a Google map if you want. You can check us out. The physical space isn't that big. We're 3 square blocks. That's it. Downtown facility. So we are limited on space. Absolutely. Where we don't have a footprint, we have airspace. So we have 6 different buildings on our property, up to 6 stories high. We have 2 underground passages as well that are massive. It's an abandoned cement factory that took millions of dollars to open and get ready to go. And I don't think there's a city in the world that says, oh, hey, that abandoned cement factory that seismically hasn't been good for the last 20 years and it's been an abandoned homeless camp? Yeah, they're going to buy it, turn it into a haunted house. Yay, isn't that awesome? But, we had every possible firewall to get to, fiery hoops to jump through and so many things to open that place up. And the owners really, man, they did such a good job being able to jump through those hoops and kind of persevere all of that. But yeah, it's a huge facility. And we have 3 rides on our property as well. And so there's a lot. So that was tricky because, obviously everyone's concerned about conga lines inside their haunted house. But the biggest concern is what the public can generally see in a queue line, right? And so spacing wise, to answer your question, most states now are kind of adopting with the 6-foot principle or the 2-meter principle. We ended up increasing that to 12 feet and sometimes 16 feet because, if you have a group of 6 people and you have another group of 6 people and there supposedly was 6 feet in between, well, we know what's going to happen, right? Like when they're in line, they're going to be 2 feet apart from each other pretty quick. And so we decided to double that to 12 plus feet between groups, which allowed for group space plus waiting space. And I think that's one of the things to think about, that, any person in a queue line, anyone's ready to throw you under the bus. Don't ever forget that. And, whether it's for free tickets or it's for social media privilege or if it's, just because they want to look cool in front of their friends and, and throw a flare in the air. And so remember that. And we certainly did as well, and that's why we took into consideration if we have more space in our graveyard, there's definitely more space between groups because, all it's going to take this year is, a couple of people who put their hands up and snap a picture of this group and they align it just right so that it looks like there's no space between the crowd and they're going to throw you right under the bus. And so being able to do kind of that above and beyond thing, I think is going to pay off this year. And quite frankly, I think there's going to be residual effects still in 2021. I mean, I really believe that. Most of us industry folks do, that we're going to still have a little bit of this happening in 2021. And certainly, maybe the big storm cloud has passed through, but we're still going to be able to smell the rain. That's kind of the analogy to you. And so I think that I think people will still be they'll still have it on their mind in a year, and we have to be able to do everything we can this year, and then we'll of course be able to attack 2021. So,
well, that's a good point. I think it does depend on how well this year goes, and you also did say the word fire twice, so it got me thinking. We had something happen years ago that changed the haunt industry forever. For the better. Unfortunately, a lot of smaller haunts could not keep up with the restrictions that happened from the Six Flags incident.
Yep.
But do you think COVID-19 is going to be something that changes the haunt industry forever, or is it just for the foreseeable future?
I think it's a little of both. I think there are things for sure that are going to stick around. I mean, I don't know that anyone's going to ever say, "Oh, that sucks. Haunted houses are more clean." I think, we all struggle with the haunt plague in our haunts, right? Whether we're actors or we're operators, and I think, and none of us like to get sick, right? And as an actor, like, I don't want to get sick because I'm not my best, I'm not on my A game, and I probably am going to lose a night or two of working. That I want to be there, like I want to be there to scare the crap out of people. And so I think that's the beauty of it is by us really thinking more about even hand sanitizer and cleaning doorknobs, like small little things that before were like, meh, whatever, it's just, that you do that everywhere in the world. Well, if we can mitigate some of that concern, we're going to have a better show and our staff's going to feel better about being on our team. So I think stuff like that is going to stick around, absolutely. I do think, though, on the concern side, especially, looking at consumer confidence, I think there are going to be some things that are going to stick around forever. I I can't say that all of it, though. Take, for example, a queue line. Like, when you think of a haunted house, you think of you're going to be in a queue line for an hour or two. There's going to be monsters. They're going to be creeping up right on over your shoulder. That's part of the experience. And I don't think that people are willing to give that up forever. I think that's going to come back probably in a good couple of years. Do I think that they're going to have higher expectations for things like porta potty cleanliness or restroom cleanliness? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we're going to hear about it on social media for sure. Everyone is their own blowhorn at this point. So yeah, I do. I think there are things that are going to change. It is changing the industry. Unfortunately, there are haunts that are already closing, which is really, it's really saddening to know that we've got, family that just can't do it, and or are not able to do it, and that really sucks. But I think it also is going to open up new areas and new markets for new people to fall in love with haunted houses, and to go back to your reference. I mean, what happened at Six Flags was a horrible tragedy, and I think about even just a couple of years ago what happened with the fire in Poland in that escape room, and immediately within days, federally there was conversation about how do we mandate and require all this stuff from escape rooms. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's some level of residual effect to operating safely in home haunts as well. And I still every year I see a home haunt somewhere on YouTube that has 2019 home haunt, and they're all just full of black plastic walls that aren't flame retardant, and it just freaks me out. Not gonna lie. And it's just, and I think everything that we all can do to be more safe is going to pay off in the long run.
Yep.
And hopefully we won't have any concern, any damage, any property damage, any human damage.
Yeah, and in haunting, safety does always come first. Absolutely. For the guests, for the actors, for everybody.
Yeah.
So, your guests, they still want to be scared. Were you guys kicking around any ideas of how you can stay out 6 feet and still attempt to break that fourth wall?
Yeah, that was probably one of our, certainly one of many, but one of our bigger hurdles. We all know that, we all know the general rule. You scare at a 45-degree angle, plus or minus 3 feet. But if it's close enough that they can punch you, you're too close. And that immediately, you think about it, usually that's 2 to 3 feet from head to fist, and so that gives you some space right there. But I think in general, we really had to rethink our entire game. We walked through our entire operation. If you've never been to the factory, by the time you enter our property, you're 3/4 of a mile of walkthrough. I mean, it's a long walk, and it's 16 flights of stairs. The place really is it's enormous. And so from the moment you're on our property, we're thinking about safety, but we're also thinking about why you came, which is, of course, to be entertained and to be scared. And so, we really had to think twice about that. Even like drop panels that would come down, we ended up putting plexiglass over that so that when it did drop, it made a residual effect. It was louder, and they can, the actor, even though they can't scream and yell, they can certainly slam something up against the brick wall, or slam a brick up against the wall next to you or something, and it still creates the startle scare. And maybe you run a trigger line so that, after they pass you, because we did reduce the number of our actors, so then that means that, 15 feet later, where there would have been another actor, that's now an empty scare space, where that previous actor could then have a trigger that was ran so that as soon as they could watch when they're in that exact spot, be able to trigger, maybe it's another animatronic, or maybe it's an audio scare, or an air blast, or something that at least allowed us to fill the space. And with as big as we are, every possible actor that we were decreasing was a potential value, like the peak scares in the valleys and the peak scares, it's that haunt roller coaster ride. But we had to make sure that those spaces were filled and not boring, and that was probably key in our operation. And our construction team was amazing. It's headed up by one of our other owners, Keith. I don't know. They spent way too much time there. I mean, we had about a month and a half to prepare, and that's not a lot of time. I mean, they pretty much built and created, I don't know what, 45, 55, 65 some odd new scares and automated scares, just tons of stuff. So it's been really cool. I think the silver lining for us and certainly from COVID is, we're dusting off a lot of old things that we either had that we kind of put in storage for a little bit or that needed repair or animatronics or, maybe it was a latex repair or a mask or a costume that needed to be repaired. And we've pulled all those stops out at this point, and we're realizing that it's worth investing in getting those all up and ready again, because if our actors can't scare, there's other things that we can do to make sure that we're still giving a really great experience.
Excellent. So I want to talk about, in a haunted house, there's a lot of things and places that guests should not touch. We know they do. Now, these things will have cobwebs or dust on them or blood. How do you go about sanitizing something like that without destroying that layer of dust or those spider webs?
Yeah, that's tricky. I think, honestly, it goes back to your design. It really does. We've been, folks who have been to Fear Factory from 2011 when we opened, I mean, we're only a 9-year-old haunt. But from 2011 to probably 2013, when it was built and when we opened, it was built by a film company. And that's fantastic, but film companies don't know very much about input speeds and people touching props, and they just don't. They don't even. That's not even in their line of sight. And so our construction team then started rebuilding and cutting open walls and moving things around, and just really kind of making sure that we designed it to be a haunted house. And I think that's the beauty. And there's some really great consultants in our industry that help build and help can give guidance to that. And it is what it is. Are they going to touch certain things? Absolutely. Every single time, people are in our vampire manor, and it's this beautiful 16th century Gothic, massive vampire coven manor that's 3 stories high, and it's a good 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. I mean, just this beautiful, massive space, but people still run their fingers along the walls as they're walking by. They still touch the candelabras. They still touch the desks in the study. And it is what it is. And I think, if you can clean it. If you can clean it. I think your areas that are the most touched are what you're going to be concerned about. So, think about in your queue line, the stanchion that, stands up and it's got rope running between. People still put their hands on them or they lean on those. Handrails, obviously we have a lot of stairs, so there's handrails involved that need to be cleaned. Porta potties, we talked about that already. So there's certainly a lot. There's a lot to take into consideration. Every property is different, and you're just gonna have to look at it. So, and when it comes to cleaning, whether you're using a 700 ppm bleach solution or a 2,000 ppm, or maybe it's a regular chemical. That you're from like a food, like a restaurant supply store or something. There's different saturation times. So, to kill COVID from a chemical might be 3 minutes, but for a bleach solvent, it might be 10 minutes. And so those are things just to think about, that you want to be able to use high touch areas with a cleaning detergent that will dry and kill fast compared to something, like most of the time, like I always think back in my day, I used to run casinos and restaurants, and so for me, I know that when you wipe down that table on a restaurant and they hurry and seat you while that's still wet, remember that's probably not clean. It looks clean, right? Because we think, oh, it's been washed, but the reality is until that's dry, that's when it's been killed. And so those are all things just to think about, that it's just going to take a little bit of time, and so that means that you just have to think about that operationally in your head. That might mean slowing groups down. You've got one group going through, and then someone jumps in and hurries and cleans before the next group comes through, and you just kind of keep that moving. So,
absolutely. Now, you guys used to have a concession stand on property. I don't know if you still do or not, how has ticket sales and concessions and or merchandise sales, how has any of that changed since you guys have opened?
Yeah. Ticket sales are great. No concerns there. We're definitely really happy with it. It's a great. It's really humbling that people are willing to come to our show and see our team and see all the great things that we do.
I mean, can they still buy tickets on site, or do they have to buy them online now?
Yeah, yeah. So it's cool that people want to come out and see us, but that's exactly what's changed. Is that a lot of people are now demanding and wanting more online sales, and vice versa. We're also offering more online sales. I want to be able to prioritize that and really give preferential treatment to people who do not have a paper ticket. That's all there is to it. If there was a way that we could do that, personally, I would love to go completely cashless, but I'm also against doing that completely across the system. And so, as an operator, having to not have our team count money every night, like, oh my gosh, they would love us forever. But it's not an option. And we will lose sales from it. And so we made a decision that we're still going to go about 90% online. We'll actually have 2 windows still open for walk-up traffic. However, it's going to be pretty minimal because we are time ticketing, which means X number of people come through X number of minutes. And that means that if you're going to walk up on our property, you're going to wait longer. It is what it is. So buy your tickets ahead of time. We will have 1 window that's going to also be cash, specific cash only. So that way we can keep cash cleaned, and we're not going to worry too much about it, and we'll jump through all the hoops that we need to on that end. So, but yeah, the idea is to get as much push to the online sales as possible.
And what about food?
Yeah, concessions. Thanks. I totally forgot about that part.
That's all right.
Concessions are that's a hard one. Right now, our county health department, to my knowledge, they're not granting any concession permits for the rest of the year. And so that sucks. So what that means is that we all have to get a little bit, there's always a loophole, right? So we've got to get a little creative. So the loophole is that you can still open your concessions. You only need a concessions permit, at least for us in Utah, and I think this is pretty similar across, federally across the country. You only are required to have a food permit if you're creating food in that space and then reselling it. But if you have prepackaged material, if you're selling soda cans out of the ice box, if you're, anything that's already packaged
Bags
up and ready to go.
chips.
Yep, chips, Snickers bars, whatever you want. Snickers, I hope you're hearing this. I want some bars. Sell them. You can do it. It is an additional line of revenue. So if it's helpful, great, do it. We all know people are going to want to wait in lines. Something to consider, though, is that, for us, because we are going time ticketing, typically our 2, 3, 4 hour wait in line, where we've got, anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000 people waiting in a line, that's going to decrease now drastically because of time ticketing, which means that they're either not going to buy something because they see how short the line is. They're concerned about buying something because they're only going to have 30 seconds to eat it before they got to get inside the haunt. So those are all little factors that we'll have to think about as well. So, but yeah, we're really watching it to keep an eye on everything to see what may be lifted, what restrictions may be lifted, and or if we have to go completely to a prepackaged concession this year.
Okay, and where you guys selling merchandise?
We do. We have a killer merchandise lineup. In fact, we're hoping that we'll be able to get it online pretty soon in the future. But every year we design some cool new gear. We also partner with a couple of really cool partners like this. You can see it. This is our Fear Factory logo, obviously, but it's got Rockstar on there. Rockstar is one of our sponsors, and so we try and take care of them as much as best we can. But we have a ton of swag. We have, beanies, these great haberdasher beanies. They're like $30-$40 that are just killer, really great. You'd typically get like an outlet store for recreation and camping. And we'll have Futures in Design. They're here locally in Utah, and they're able to pretty much produce a really cool. I had it on earlier. It's a really heavy-duty mask, antimicrobial. You can reactivate the bleach lining inside of it. and they're going to dye sublimate the whole thing for us for like $4 or $5, $3 on the cost end. So we're going to try selling it for the $5 or $6 price, and just some cool things that we can do. It's going to help us capture some extra revenue this year since we're losing it on the ticket side. But it's also something cool that people can do. So I mean, there's nothing better than wearing a scary mask to Costco, right? So why not?
I've got mine with the little vampire teeth on it.
Yeah.
So again, for those that have just tuned in, if they want to know, because you had zero transmission as far as everything goes with COVID-19 on your property during the haunt, if they want to see your plan and how you guys did it, everything, what's the site for that?
Yeah, so go to our website, fearfactoryslc.com. You'll click under Contact Us under our FAQ. You'll see the second one. The second FAQ is about COVID-related items. Just click that, and you'll be able to just fill out a quick form, and then boom, there's a 60-page PDF. It's all yours. Everything that we did, photos, maps,
Free.
Everything that we did, and that's what we submitted to our health department that allowed them to back off and say, wow, good job. Because when we first started having that conversation, the health department, quite frankly, straight up said, we don't think you can do this, guys. Like, we just don't think you can do this. And that was kind of our opportunity to just kind of step up to the plate and say, cool, game on. So it worked. It worked out really well, and we're really proud of the outcome.
Excellent. Is there any factors I didn't cover? I mean, I'm sure there is.
Yeah, right. So many moving parts.
Yeah.
No, I think I think for anyone who's really thinking about whether to open or not, if you're going to do it, just start now. Start 2 months ago. There's time to catch up. Absolutely. You know, one of the things that we talked about with Fearworm just in a call earlier is, you know, if you think about from a market saturation perspective that, you know, if Coke stopped selling Coke today for the next year, that chances are there's avid, just loyal Coke fans that are going to switch to Pepsi, or they're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
They're going to give their money somewhere else. And then when Coke decides to start selling again next year, those people may not be coming back. And I think it's a very similar, I'm sure it's not identical, but it's a similar ideology in our industry that if you're not going to open up, you are going to lose part of that market share. And do your best to open. Obviously, you've got to make some decisions. If it's not going to be safe, if you don't think you can afford it, if you don't know that there's an operational way to do it, don't. I mean, I would hate for that one haunted house or that one person for the rest of their life to be just burned with that image that they're the ones that screwed up Halloween, because you're not going to live that one down. It is what it is, right? So, make your decisions. If you can do it safely, do it, and if you can't, don't. And come back stronger in 2021, and you might have a little bit of room to make up, but you're going to kill it. So, yeah.
But yeah, do the research. Get with your local, your state, your federal. Find out all your regulations, and hopefully you can find a way to safely open.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And I 100% believe, may not be true for some super small towns or some places if the COVID does kind of skyrocket. But other than that, I do believe that if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that now. We're seeing those numbers. People want to do something. They want to go somewhere. They want to celebrate. They want to do something. So, yeah, absolutely. If you're going to open, I don't know that it's even a question at this point of will people show up at my attraction. The answer is absolutely they will. They're going to bring people with them, and it'll be a really good year. We just have to socially distance. We have to be careful on cleanliness. We got to be proactive and do what we can. So, yeah, absolutely. And good point, Nick. Start working with your health department now. I mean, their job, the health department's job is to tell you no, right? Their job is to make sure that things are absolutely safe. And if there's even a reasonable amount of doubt, they're going to say no. So that's why we released this 60-page plan for free. And we had consultants saying we should charge $2,000 plus for this sucker. It's about saving an industry at this point. We have an entertainment industry that is collapsing in front of us. And our goal is to get out there, get the information, and help other people be able to open as well. So hopefully people will do that.
Spencer Terry helping lead the charge to save Halloween. So yeah, and again, another thing I want to mention or reiterate is that you did say, you guys were orange and you were planning for worst case, you were planning to be red. You never know what those restrictions are going to be until they come out. So go ahead and plan worst case scenario.
Absolutely. Yep. Be proactive.
All right. It's that time where I turn it over to you. Let everyone know your websites, where they can find you on Instagram, Facebook, the Twitter bug,
All the above.
all that different kind of stuff.
Website, fearfactoryslc.com. That is also our handle for Facebook. It's Fear Factory SLC. Same with Insta, same with Twitter. You can find us anywhere. If you're following all of our social media, you're welcome to. We also are the leading, we're not anymore because, we're old now, but last season in September, we had, I think we're past 6 million views on TikTok. We were trending on TikTok for almost 5 weeks straight, which was really awesome. We have, Chris Strebel that leads up our marketing team did a really killer job getting that out there. So find us, follow us. You're also welcome to reach out to me, Spencer Terry, pretty easy on Facebook. I have made this part of my job at Fear Factory Haunted House in Salt Lake is to really help this industry any way I can. And because I also sit on the Haunted Attraction Association board of directors, I want to get this out. I want to be able to do what I can to help people. So I'm trying to just, get this message out and help people wherever we can. So, and a shout out to the HAA, the Haunted Attraction Association. If you're not a member, you could be an actor member for like $50, I think, for the whole year. You can be a haunted house member for anywhere between $75 to $250. Obviously, $250 for like big ones like us that push 60,000 people through a year. But that to me has been one of the biggest, I think, kind of nets, if you will, of the safety right now is that we all need to be connected and we need to be talking to each other, and that's the portal that allows a lot of that to happen. It's money well spent. It's not because I'm on the board. There was a time where I didn't think it was well spent, but there's a lot that has been changing over the last couple of years, and I valued it enough that I volunteered to be a board member. That says a lot. So I think, there's a lot happening. Yeah, the HAA.
What does that stand for?
The Haunted Attraction Association.
Okay.
HAA. Yep, and there you'll see them everywhere. That's part of Transworld. They're there for a booth. Every year there's an annual meeting of all HAA members. The O-Scares happen at Transworld every year. And we're pretty well connected internationally with a lot of haunted houses and try to support this. Halloween is an $9 billion industry. So we've got to do our part to make sure that we're not only supporting it, but that we're proactively engaging in it. So yeah.
Absolutely.
That's it. Those are my shout outs. And shout out to our team. They're just amazing. Our owners are cool, and our team I love them. Every day I'm so proud of our actors and our customer service folks and our security team and our ticketing team and all of our leadership that they're cool. They're awesome. I'm really proud of them.
Great. Well, thanks for being on. It was a huge pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.